And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Blazing Banter with your host, Fire Steve. Podcast where we talk about fire stuff, blue collar stuff, social media stuff, and I don't know, whatever the heck my guest wants to talk about that given week. And on this week's episode, we're bringing back another reoccurring character. So we're going to welcome back Mr. John DeGroot. And then we've also got his girlfriend, Olivia. And we're also going to welcome in Mr. Brayden. We got a whole
good evening.
We got a whole cacophony of firefighters in the house tonight. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
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 Yeah, it's been a good weekend.
Excellent. Yeah, you just came off of a WUI course.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see yours truly in one of the videos during the course?
Yeah, I think he kind of popped up in one or two pictures there.
Yeah, all the course material was kind of based off of the Chuck Egg fire from 2019. So when I took the course back in the spring, it was a lot of nostalgia, and I was basically told, don't don't give away the endings, like, because we did a lot of scenarios, and they're like, yeah, don't, you know what happened, don't give it away. I'm like, okay.
Well, they're starting to update it a bit more. They're using a lot of the Drayton Valley scenarios for, what happened, what to do, what worked well, what didn't work well. So
Nice. Yeah, and I think over time, things are going to change. They're going to adapt. They're going to update things because that's just the nature of the beast. And for some reason, it thinks I gave a thumbs up. For those who are watching the video, you'll see our pretty faces if you're checking us out on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff, super appreciate it. As always, the podcast now, we're not doing a set schedule thing. We're just kind of posting them as we do them. So it's very important that everybody who's tuning in hit the notification bell, subscribe, follow along, all that sort of thing. So that way you get notified when a new episode drops. So on this episode, I don't want to say this week's or today's episode, we're going to talk about an interesting event and how social media has had an impact on our lives and just the whole 6 degrees of separation thing, like how we're all interconnected and even more interconnected than a person would originally think. And it all goes back to a life-changing event, a massively life-changing event. John, do you want to talk about the event?
So on September 17th, I left for work from my girlfriend's house. I was traveling down Highway 16, and I went to go pass a transport truck. That transport decided to run me off the road, and I ended up into a metal guardrail, losing control in the ditch. And I was able to call 911 myself. I don't know how I managed to do that. I waited till first responders showed up on scene and lost consciousness, and that's about all I remember.
That was quite the evening as well, because you got into the accident, and meanwhile I'm on my way back from Edmonton from a tattoo appointment, no wiser to anything going on, and then I get a phone call from Mr. Brayden. Brayden, you want to talk about how the events kind of played out for you?
Yeah, I might be a little long-winded in this. I'll try to shorten it up, but we got a call. Perfect. We got a call for a vehicle fire came in, and I live about 6-ish miles out of town, so I booked her into town, headed in as normal. Got to the station, got the details from dispatch, and they told us that we had our protective services manager was on the scene and relaying information to dispatch. So I gave him a call. He called, when I talked to him, he said, there's no fire. There's a vehicle in the ditch. He gave the location. Like, okay, loaded up a truck, headed out there, set up as normal as we would on the highway for an accident. EMS was already on scene. One of the EMS already had C-spine set. And as soon as we got there, we started cutting into the vehicle, getting that door off. And as soon as that last pin was cut, our patient, I didn't know who it was at the time, but our patient wound up losing consciousness. So we hurry up, get him out of there, get him moving. And I kind of got a glance of him, and there was something kind of tickling in the back of my head. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. And I'm trying to rack my brain. Did I meet him on deployment? Crap, it was bugging me. So anyway, standard procedure, we grabbed all the insurance and registration, all that information for our files and everything. And I look at the name, John DeGroot. Oh man, I know this guy. Who the heck is he? I'm racking my brain. So afterwards, one of my firefighters went into the vehicle and found your Fire Pickle on his coffee mug. He brought it up to me. He's like, and he'd been on deployment too. Actually, you and I and him were all on deployment together. And he's like, hey, he's got a Fire Pickle Steve or a Fire Pickle sticker. I'm like, well, I better give Steve a call. So I gave Steve a call and chatted with him. And it just kind of went from there. Figured out who it was. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, I guess.
Well, I remember getting the call from you, and like, I wanted to ask the question initially, but I knew time was of the essence and all that. Because the big thing was, you're like, hey, do you know, I responded to an incident in my jurisdiction. Do you know a John DeGroot? And I'm like, yeah. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know him too, but I understand everything's happening super, super fast. Because when I was on deployment up with you in Janvier this summer, we had talked to John on the phone because asking him, hey, do you want to come on deployment as well? And that was just before all the Jasper stuff had happened, kind of in and around there. Well, it was right in that time. Because I think, I was still up in Janvier when the evacuation order was issued, but then I was back in camp when the actual fire impinged the town. But
yeah, because you left 2 days before impingement, because that was 2 days before we tore down Janvier.
Yeah, it happened because it happened that night because I think Wednesday was impingement because it was my first night back in camp. I remember doing a live stream on TikTok, and it was a big thing. And I was getting updates from different people of what was happening and just the pandemonium, like the amount of images and pictures and stuff that came to me that night was unreal. And then just kind of getting the initial reports. And then, of course, first everyone's like, well, 70% of the town is gone. And then it was like, well, I think we're 50%. And then once the dust settled, everything was about 30 to 33%. Still devastating, but at least the critical infrastructure and stuff of that nature was left intact. So, the residents had a town to go back to. Definitely some rebuilding, but anyway, I got the call from you. So, and then you're like, hey, do you know John? And I'm like, yeah. And then, but I'm trying to put the pieces together at this point in time because I'm not really making that connection. I'm like, well, maybe it could be another John, but I'm still trying to figure out, like, how did I get the call? Like, why did I get the phone call? And it's all because of, and for those that are seeing the video or have seen the Fire Pickle sticker, I'm holding it up on screen. I've got this, part of our merch stuff. We've got different stickers, and seeing a sticker being the thing that tied it in to basically be like, hey, do you know this guy? Because we're trying to figure out, next of kin. We're trying to figure out family, that sort of thing. And, to get the call based off of that is pretty amazing and unreal. I'm sure everybody in this room right now is still sitting a little bit in awe of how that all came together. So, I think, because you gave me the call, Brayden, and then we kind of went back and forth a few times because I said, when on our first call, the only person I knew that we could contact was, I've got to figure out which way I'm pointing here, Olivia. Was Olivia. And I'm like, well, I know his girlfriend lives in around the Vermilion area. So the location seemed correct. And I'm like, I don't know any other John DeGroots, but there can definitely be more out there. But I was like, everything kind of lines up, checks out. So, and then you're like, okay, well, hold on. And then the RCMP were kind of directing that because obviously they handle all crisis communications and stuff of that nature. And for good reason. You don't want to notify somebody and not be able to deal with the emotional aftermath of it. And then, so then we kind of went back and forth a little bit. I sent a message to Olivia. So once you're like, okay, well, get a hold of her. Don't tell her anything, but, see if you can get some contact information. So then, what was it, about 11 o'clock at night, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I sent a message via Facebook to Olivia, like, hey, I need your phone number. So what was going through your mind, like, when you get a random DM from me asking that?
Well, at first I was super, like, confused, because, I mean, it is super late at night. And then all you said, too, was, hey, what's your cell number? And I was like, why are you asking for my cell number at 11 o'clock at night, basically?
But
then
not for that reason.
Yeah, no, but at the same time, though, too, like, with you being so close to John and being a close friend of his, I just didn't think anything of it. And I was like, oh, whatever he needs my number for, it can wait till basically the morning. And yeah, unfortunately, that was something that probably shouldn't have waited till morning, but yeah.
Well, because that's the thing. I reached out because I knew I was forwarding the information over to Brayden, who was passing it on to the RCMP so that they can make their calls. And that's where I was hoping. I'm like, hey, well, hopefully that they get on it. And because I didn't want to leave you hanging. Because, I basically said, I need your number. I can't really tell you what it's about.
Yeah.
And then, hoping that was enough. And then you did. You sent me your number. I forwarded it on and then didn't hear anything back. And I'll be honest, like, Brayden, when you first called me, because you're like, yeah, it's not good. And I was like, at that point, because I didn't even ask him, like, I didn't know if it was fatal. I didn't know if he was just seriously injured, minor injuries. Like, I didn't know the severity of it. I knew it was somewhere from severe to fatal. Thank God it wasn't fatal. But at that point, like, that was what was going through my mind. I'm like, this guy's no longer with us. And, and trying to keep my composure through it because, we have developed that friendship. You think of just online stuff's funny. And I know we've all talked about this in our own conversations, but not as a whole group, is how, you meet people online, and just because we're friendly with people online, like, you make good acquaintances, and there's people that you enjoy chatting with, but you don't really consider them friends because it takes time. Friendships, any relationship takes time to foster and build up and interaction, and you have to just pass the vibe check. So, when you get to that point, it's hard to, you don't consider everybody a friend, but I mean, that was the thing. Like I said, I was sitting there honestly concerned of, what had happened and the outcome of it. And that was a thing I was waiting on. Yeah.
John, if you don't mind, I can maybe go into a little bit more depth of kind of the information I was getting about you, once you were in EMS care. Is that okay?
Yeah. So
cool.
Basically, from what I've heard, is after I got off the ambulance on the medevac, my heart did stop for a brief second. And I almost skipped a beat, but it did stop. And then it stopped twice more at the Edmonton hospital. And they hooked me up to see my brain activity, and it was normal, but they were afraid I wasn't going to wake up. And they thought I was brain dead. Because my heart kept stopping, my blood pressure was all over the place. My GLS? Whatever, was really all over the place.
Yeah.
GL was all over the place. My oxygen was 81 when I got admitted to the ICU. And they basically thought I was gonna die. That's what the nurse told me when I woke up, is I was gonna die.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
after the right back from there, I tanked hard.
Which was really weird because when we got on scene, you were conscious, you were talking, we were actually joking a little bit because we saw your fire gear in the back, and then my protective services manager, he said, hey, this guy's a firefighter, so he's going to critique you on how we do this rescue, and kind of trying to make a little bit light of it. And I know a lot of people that maybe aren't in the service don't really understand that when we get into that situation, because there's such a high stress, such a high adrenaline rate, we got to kind of break that even just a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to make light of the situation and what's going on with you. it actually allows us to break that stress cycle that we're in and actually perform our job a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, after EMS care, when I got to Vegreville is when I tanked.
Yeah,
that's when I was seizing and nonstop.
They were pretty worried about you once we did get you into the ambulance, because like I said, you had crashed before we actually got you out of the vehicle. So we got you out, hauled you right up in there, put you in there. I'm actually good friends with EMS that was there and was working with you. That they said that you had seized, and they were quite concerned about you not having feeling in the lower end of your body. And that was a big concern right then and there. Is you might not be able to get around on your 2 feet as easily as you used to, kind of thing. So
yeah.
But I remember on the ride home from the airport when I took you back to Olivia there, your one comment was I can't remember if you said that Olivia said it or one of the nurses said it, but they called you a cockroach because you pulled through that like nothing. Nothing's gonna take you out, man.
Well, it was interesting too. Like, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more on the recovery and actually how things progressed a lot quicker for the good than I even thought. Like, I thought you were going to be in the hospital in Edmonton for quite a bit longer than you actually were. But sticking to that night. So that's the thing. Yeah, like I remember the second call I got was, I believe you said they'd been in contact with his family in Ontario, and then you're like, but pass along Olivia's information. So I sent that off, and then I heard from you once more, Brayden, at about 1:30 in the morning. Which at that point I'd finally made it home, because when you called me, I was around Smoky Lake, and then because I was at Smoky Lake when you called the first time. Second time I was like just at the roadside pullout where Highway 28 meets 36.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where you're like, hey, pass along Olivia's information. At that point, she had already messaged me. But I think in that point in time, that's when she put her phone on silent and went to bed. Which, I mean, granted, you're a student, you were just getting back into classes, stuff like that. It makes sense. And there was nothing at that point in time that would have piqued your spidey sense to be like, I wasn't being like cryptic, like, oh, okay, something bad happened. I just said, I need your number. And kind of left it at that.
Well, and that's just it too, because right after you messaged me and I sent you my cell number and everything like that, I had a mandatory school trip that I had to go on the next morning. And I had to be at the school for 7:45 in the morning. So I was going to bed early that night. And so as soon as I messaged you back, I shut my phone off and went to bed so that I could get sleep in for this trip. And the next morning is when I heard about all of it.
Well, because through the night, that's when your phone had blown up.
The
RCMP had tried to reach out, make contact. They left you a voicemail. And then you had a bunch of missed calls from John's family as well, trying to make contact as well, which, at that point, there was a lot of stuff going on in the background.
Absolutely.
And then, the last point of contact I had was, Brayden phoned me at 1:30, said, John had been flown. So at that point, I knew it wasn't good. Anytime air transport's involved, it's not a good scenario. It's some sort of critical condition. They want time is of the essence. But I knew you were still alive, or alive enough to be transported. I knew it was bad, but not like, because they're not gonna transport somebody by air if you're DOA. So if you're dead, that's it. Like, they'll just transport you by ambulance to the nearest hospital, and then kind of go from there. Notifying family and stuff like that. So at that point, I was kind of breathing a little easier as I went to bed, knowing that you had a hard road ahead of you, and that we would hear more eventually, and like checking up the next day. So like I kind of had a bit of relief, in that final conversation I had with Brayden. And then we were just kind of waiting to see what transpired the next day, which would have And then I was on my way back to work the next day too. So I got up and I was basically getting on the road, getting ready to go back on the shift. And then that's why I didn't get back to you right away, Olivia, because then you were messaging me basically being like, hey, what's going on? And then because you had a bunch of notifications. So what was that like, waking up to all that?
Oh man. I think that morning is gonna haunt me for a while, to be honest. It is like the worst feeling on the planet, waking up to a bunch of missed phone calls, and texts and stuff. And this was at 6:30 in the morning, so I'm like just waking up. I don't even realize like life at this point in the morning either. And first thing I noticed is 2 unknown numbers that called me, and it would have been the RCMP. Called me twice. And then after that, it followed with multiple missed calls from his mom and sister and messages from them. They said that he was in an accident, but they didn't describe or like say kind of what state he was in. They just said he was in an accident and he was being flown to Edmonton, and that's all I knew. And at that time in the morning, everyone was sleeping, and so I'm trying to respond back to people, like basically freaking out at this point because I have no idea what's happening. I'm trying to text everyone, seeing what's going on. Nobody's responding. So that's when I texted you again to see if you knew what was happening, stuff like that. Then I would say probably a half hour goes by. I still had to go on this school trip because unfortunately I would have been removed from my program and everything if I didn't go on the trip. So I called my mom and I asked her if she could drive to Edmonton to go and be with him, so at least someone was there until his parents got there. And she was going to, but his parents ended up coming, so she waited and held off. But yeah, then it was just basically waiting until I could contact his mom. And then once I got a hold of her, it's when we had the phone call and she told me everything. And the first thing she told me, and at the time when I found out, was he was unconscious and was still unconscious. And we didn't know if he was going to wake up again or not.
Yeah, I didn't touch base with you until that evening.
Yeah.
Because at the same time too, I didn't know what had been communicated. At that point, I'm like, okay, well, hopefully somebody had touched base with you and somebody had talked to you and said, okay, at least, you're aware of the accident and what had happened. But also too, like I said, I didn't want to because I was in the middle of driving and in bad service. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wait till I'm like settled in, back to where I need to be. And then, kind of go from there.
Absolutely.
So that's what I was and I was like, okay, and by the time I did touch base with you, I was like, okay, well, frick, I'm like, at this point, somebody should have said something, which luckily somebody had reached out and touched, made contact and let you knew what was up. And then
absolutely.
Then when we had the conversation Wednesday evening, that's where because at that point, where everything left off is where the last thing I heard from Brayden was he was flown to Edmonton. Okay, that's all I knew. So you filled me in with a little bit more information as well. That went with, okay, yeah, he's at that point he was still unconscious. They had to basically put him in a coma to control him for whatever reasons they needed to, keep him stable. So that was the status at that point. And then the biggest thing for me was just, letting you know, like, hey, I'm here, for somebody to talk to, because it is a lot. It's a lot for, especially, a girlfriend, significant other, to be going through at that point in time. And just with, my experience with being a firefighter and just emergency stuff and understanding, just being friends with John in general, it was a thing of like, hey, supporting each other through that time.
Absolutely.
So then, yeah, we had, basically had that conversation. You updated me on some things, which was appreciative. And then, you'd been on, because you were on your trip too, and you're like, okay, well, I'm trying out, as soon as I get back, I'm going to go to the hospital to see him. His family had made it out and was there with him at that point in time. And I was kind of monitoring the situation, like I was at work, and I know me and Brayden had chatted at some point. We're like, okay, well, we're going to go take a drive in to see John when he's in the hospital. Because then, yeah, it was pretty much, didn't hear anything that night. And then I'm trying to think, was it the next day that you reached that, John, you messaged me, or was it the day after?
I don't remember anything about the hospital. So.
I think it would have been the next. It would have been the next day, because yeah, we recovered his phone on the Thursday.
Well, because you messaged me from your mom's phone Thursday morning, because I remember it was my first morning back on shift, because I got a text message saying, hey, it's John, let me know. It's John, I'm awake, I'm using my mom's phone, you can get a hold of me on here, is the text message I got. I had a phone call from an Ontario number, which I didn't know, and I was in the middle of work, and so I'm like, okay, well, either they'll leave a message or I'll call back. And then, yeah, John had left a text message, and then I kind of went from there. And then we had chatted on the phone for, do you remember that conversation, John?
I don't remember anything in the hospital. I woke up and I was on fentanyl, so I was high as
You were on a different plane, is what you were doing there.
Give me some good stuff.
Well, you know what? Like you had said earlier, Steve, your level of recovery from, I think from accident till discharge from the hospital was basically a week, maybe a little bit less or something like that.
It was definitely less. It was
for everything that happened to you, like you were having a pretty good long few day nap there, and they were worried about your legs, and there was this, that, and the next thing going on, and then all of a sudden I hear you're getting discharged. I'm like, how is it that fast? That was unreal.
I thought the same. I think like the plan was, I was like, okay, well, he's going to be in the hospital for at least a week. That'll give us time to get off shift and then travel. Me and Brayden were going to travel and come see you in the hospital. That was the plan. And then, yeah, you were discharged in less time than that. So yeah, the conversation, we didn't go into anything super deep. You just, reached out and said, hey, I'm awake. You kind of let me know about the coma that they had you in. At that point, Thursday morning, yeah, you couldn't feel your legs. So, that was definitely a big concern. You said you were in a ton of pain, and you felt, as any of us would, feel helpless. You got, you're not able to do things on your own, like go to the bathroom, catheters in and things hooked up to you and stuff of that nature. And it's no fun. And I mean, I haven't been in the hospital a whole pile of times, but I remember the one time I was in with my lower back when that completely locked up on me. Yeah, I couldn't. They gave me the jug, and they didn't catheter me, but there's things.
You're lucky.
I think that's a feeling that nobody ever really wants to experience, because I'm just trying to picture that. Like, no, please don't ever
the size of
do
a
that.
small garden hose. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not over exaggerating. She's seen it.
I don't know how vulgar I could get in here, but that's the physics of that doesn't seem like it should work.
Oh, it works.
That's the beauty about doing the podcast. We can be as vulgar as we want to be. I usually don't go too crazy on here, but we have the opportunity. It's not like doing a TikTok live where we say the wrong thing and it's like bananaed. If we go too raunchy, then I have to put a disclaimer, basically like, hey, if there's any under 18s, your discretion is advised. But
no fancy editing, just a disclaimer. I like that.
Yeah, I'm all about I like the long form conversation. I like being able to hit record and just everything plays out the way it is. It makes for a lot less editing on my end, on the back end. It just works very nicely. But yeah, so that's what. So we chatted Thursday morning. You basically said, hey, because at that point you didn't have your phone. and then he's like, yeah, you can get a hold of me on this number. And then that's kind of like I told you, we'll keep in touch. If you need to call. Like I was working, but I mean I wasn't like crazy busy. So I was just doing my normal operator stuff while I was still doing the operator stuff. But so, and then, just kind of keeping an ear out for your recovery at that point was the big thing. Yeah. And then
the one thing I've noticed is this summer, I think for you guys, especially both Steve and John, Olivia, all of you, it's been a hell of a summer and a fall. Like, yeah, I truly do feel sorry for you guys, and I hope you all the best to come. But you guys have endured quite a bit lately, and the fact that you guys are doing as good as you are right now is kind of a testament to you two, which is great to see.
Well, I'll leave this more to John, because I mean I feel like he's been through a lot. Like, me losing work that I was planning on leaving at some point anyway. I mean, it sucked. It sucks. I mean, the timing sucked. Nobody likes getting skidded from a job, but at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes we don't know what the reason is, but as far as mine, it's like I said, it sucks, but I know I'm going to prevail, and I've got things. I'll be busy doing. It's fire prevention week, so I'm going to be doing lots of stuff with the fire department, and then beyond that, I got lots of other odds and ends. But as far as John goes, like, we can kind of dive into the summer that you had. I mean, you've had quite the turn of events. So I don't know how much you want to talk about it, how much you want to dive into, even going back to what happened in Jasper.
Well, see, my year started off wonderful because I met her. So that was the good part.
I was there. I remember that.
You were there, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went out to Jasper to move out there, and lost my house, drove through the wildfires with my poor little car that somehow survived the wildfire, and that was shocking, to be honest, because I didn't think it would. And then it survived an Alberta hailstorm again, come out with some bruises and some broken glass. That all got fixed up, but it did not survive a guardrail. But I mean,
what was it? A green guardrail? Was it kryptonite? Like,
no, it was just a normal boring guardrail. I think it's just everything, all the things that happened to it, it just kind of gave up.
It's like, I've had enough.
That guardrail ate your front tire. So yeah, I think I think it hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had quite the summer. Like, that was the thing. Like, you came to Alberta, and then you're like, hey, looking for work, and then like obviously you met Olivia and stuff like that, and that was a big reason. You came out for a couple of reasons, because of her, and then also because of work. And you're like, hey, there's I mean, as many people are coming from Ontario or out east to come work in Alberta because there's opportunity here. And you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for housing depending on where you buy or rent or whatever. But yeah, like the fact that you were in Jasper when the fire burned through, and it's like, okay, shit, you lost your housing there, and then you were kind of like wandering around the best you could. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, and then you were down in Calgary with Olivia, and then she went to school, so you guys would be kind of moving, jumping around here and there. And then the guardrail takes it out, and now you need another set of wheels once you're roadworthy. Besides your wheelchair with your minion, we're gonna dress John up for Halloween. He's gonna wear a minion costume with the Beto. He's gonna have like this the siren on his head. He's gonna be. We've already talked about it. He's gonna be. You know how there's like car 1, car 2, engine 1, engine 2. He's gonna be Crip 1. He's gonna be on his wheelchair.
As long as you guys can have the siren and the light going on top there, but you got to run the Baby Shark song in between every once in a while.
Yes.
He's gonna, and we're gonna give him a piss pack. That's what he's gonna use to put out fires. He's just gonna be rolling around with a piss pack. I'm putting it out, guys.
I got one in the truck for you.
No, you kidding? I'm gonna use my catheter.
Wrong kind of piss pack. Wrong kind of piss pack.
Yeah. I don't think you'll be able to drink enough to put out. I mean, if it's a small fire, maybe.
Hey, you should have seen the pressure coming out of there. It was pretty good.
Oh,
no
man.
pumping required. Straight draft.
There's the downward spiral, Steve.
Yeah.
As it always happens. I feel like every live stream we've all been a part of, like it starts off serious or whatever. It goes through the phases. And I mean, that's the whole vibe with this podcast too, is it's that same kind of mentality with it where we just come on, we shoot the shit. And yeah, we're going to talk about the serious things, but then we're going to break the ice a little bit and we got to laugh because ultimately the fact that you're still sitting with us here today, John, and going through what you went through and you're sitting there with a smile on your face is a testament to show like, hey, life can kick us in the nuts, but we're not going to let it keep us down. And we're going to make the best of things that we can, especially when we got good people to support us.
I'm just a good little cockroach.
That likes glitter glue. We're not going to forget about the glitter glue. We got a hashtag glitter glue.
Yeah.
For those that remember episode 2.
The best part of all of this that has happened in the past couple of weeks for you, when I actually, finally was able to pick you up at the airport because apparently they didn't want to land for like an hour, and we can get into that story in a minute. But when I actually got you to your apartment with Olivia there, and I had to do the awkward stand at the back of my truck for about 10 minutes while you guys were kind of reacquainting yourself together, and yeah, just seeing that hug. The first thing I thought of was like those videos of the military, the American military coming back and surprising their family or something like that. It's the same vibe that I felt there with you guys that night.
Oh yeah, but there was no surprise because she was tracking her ass.
she was finding us routes that cut off like 30 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's the amazing thing. Like, and well, I guess we'll carry on with going through, because yeah, we talked about the Thursday, the Friday, and then you work through the weekend. When's your first memory? I guess, John, would be the big thing. Like in the hospital, like when do you vividly remember, or do you remember any of it at all?
It's very patchy. Like ever since the accident, I've seemed to have lost a lot of memory.
Right.
But like I'm still losing it. So
it's there and then it's not, and then
it's very fuzzy. Like I remember bits and pieces, but like there's stuff that she's told me that's like, what? Like I don't remember that.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when you go and get into an accident like that, you get rattled around. Things are getting knocked. Your brain, our brains aren't designed to bounce around in our head like a pinball.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things there that and hopefully it gets to a point where you're not losing anymore. You can retain and hopefully even some of that comes back, or if not, just the kind of prevent any more loss, I guess would be the best thing anybody could hope for.
Well, the only thing I remember very vividly is when I first woke up, because I couldn't talk at all. Like talking wasn't a thing. I could barely keep my eyes open. Like everything was a mess. And like, because I scared the crap out of the nurse when I woke up, because they pushed like 3 different medications to wake me up, and they couldn't get me up. And like I heard, because I could hear everything that was going on around me, I just couldn't do anything about it. Like I could hear them trying to give me sternum rubs. I hear them trying to like wake me up, and like I couldn't do anything about it. And then I remember before I woke up, they were talking about how they think that I'm slowly going brain dead because I wasn't responding to absolutely anything. Like even like my blood pressure was dropping, my heart rate was dropping, like everything, all my vitals were dropping, and it wasn't good because they were pumping me with blood pressure medication to keep my blood pressure up, and my body wasn't responding to it at all. Like it was just doing its own thing. Like my heart rate, like they were pushing so much medication to get my heart rate back up, and it just kept tanking. Like there was a point where my heart rate apparently was 35 beats per minute.
Oh,
damn.
Yeah, and my O2 stats was 61.
Ooh.
Oof.
So,
yeah, that's not where it's supposed to be at all.
And they kept they had me on oxygen, and my body wasn't retaining the oxygen in the tube. Like It's just my body just completely stopped working pretty much. And after they pushed the meds, it was like 3 hours that went by, and I just randomly woke up. And my nurse was literally changing my saline bag. And she kind of looked over and she jumped. Because she's like, oh, he's awake. And like she's screaming, trying to get like my doctors and stuff in there. And like they're trying to talk to me and stuff. Like they're still giving me sternum rubs, and I couldn't feel it still. Like I had absolutely no feeling.
Yep.
And they're still like trying to get me to respond, and I'm like kind of in and out of it. Like I'm kind of losing it again, and I'm trying to get them to give me something to write on. And they, after like 30 attempts, they finally figured out what I was trying to say. And they came and got a whiteboard and a marker. And all I asked was, where's Olivia? And can I talk to her? That was the only things I asked. I didn't ask with my parents. I didn't ask with anybody else. I just asked if I could talk to her and if she knew and she was okay. I remember that very clearly.
Well, I remember that was one big thing that when we talked on the Thursday morning too, you were very appreciative. You're like, thank you so much for getting hold of Olivia and keeping everybody in the loop. And I'm like, honestly, I feel like I didn't do that much. I got a call from Brayden. I passed the message along, kind of went through that. But I know you were very much appreciative and being like, thank you for everything that you've done. Thanks, Fire Steve, for being there for me. And I'm like, honestly, man, it's you doing the work. I'm like, I'm just, a piece of the puzzle, I guess, and to help kind of bring everything in together. And like I said, still sitting there flabbergasted about how a freaking Fire Pickle was the thing that kind of tied everything together, and how realistically, under normal circumstances, I shouldn't have been brought into that fold whatsoever. Like I'm nobody in that regard. Like I'm a friend and stuff like that. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like we're family or super close. It's not like we grew up together or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Just the fact that Brayden knew. I mean, and just like I still can't even really put it into words. And that was the hope with this podcast, is maybe I can put it into words of just how everything had to line up for everything, like how this whole thing came together, right? Like,
yeah.
And
well, I think it's social media, but it's also, I guess, like the brotherhood of emergency services and especially fire services. You can see that, a patch on somebody's T-shirt or a sticker of somebody, like, the Pickle Steve or whatever, right? And you guys have seen my logo now. So if you see it somewhere, you'd be like, hey, this guy knows Brayden somehow. It's that brotherhood that's developed because of the fire services. And I know I'm seeing that more and more the past couple of years going on deployment, where I'm seeing the same people over and over again, right? Those relationships are being developed, and just being part of that fire service, you're kind of automatically brought into this very large family compared to most families, but in the grand scheme of the whole world, it's very small, very tight, and we almost know almost everybody else.
Well, that is a big thing about it, because especially like when I first started with my content, I've always been Fire Steve, but it was a lot of oil field stuff. But it's been more so the fire stuff, especially with the wildfires in the last couple of years here. And it's because of that fire connection. That's how me and John came connected. I forget how we exactly came to be. We have a lot of mutuals in common, and then it's like, oh, he's a firefighter, you're a firefighter, you guys should know each other. And then everybody kept calling him the discount version of me.
Because apparently we look alike. Apparently we look and sound alike, so people keep getting us mixed up.
Yeah, that too. And I mean, I kind of took you under my wing too. I mean, that's one thing that, because of all that too, I'm like, I want to mentor this kid. I want to be there for him. And how that all came together. And then Brayden popped into my live one time. I remember when I was up, we were chatting about the wildfires and stuff like that. We had a good chat, because it was us, actually, Devlin, who was on episode 7, and then also Elise were in the boxes. We were having chats about just the fire service in general. So Brayden, you absolutely nailed it there, saying that, yeah, it's because of the brotherhood and sisterhood, just the camaraderie of being in the fire service in general is what kind of brought our algorithms together to bring us all into the same spot. And then, just getting along, chatting even more. I mean, even too, remember when I came up to help you and Marty up in Johnville, you're like, hey, I'm looking for some people. Do you know of anybody? And I'm like, actually, I'm on days off.
Now that you say,
but
yeah, no, it was pretty cool because like I remember that first live that I jumped in with you. I was working on putting my Type 6 together, and I was just kind of trying to get my name out there as, somebody to go and help with the wildfires kind of thing. And you had all of your wildfire content already, and I've been following you since last year. And then, yeah, we got chatting. I think we were on that live for what, like 2-3 hours, something like that.
It was a 4-hour live total, but it was one of those ones where I'm like, I'm going to jump on for half an hour. And then it was 4 hours later.
Yeah. And then was it that night or 2 nights later or something like that? You sent me a message on TikTok.
It was after that because I was on shift, and then when I sent you the message, I was at home. I can't remember where I was at in my shift when we did that live, but I remember Dev had messaged me saying, "Hey, I'm looking for some people to come assist with some, some firefighting or structure protection stuff." So then, and I knew I was swamped, so I was like, "Okay, well, I know you were in the midst of putting a truck together, and I had one other contact, somebody else who was 1001 trained that kind of fit the bill." So I messaged you on TikTok because I didn't have you on Instagram, and then I messaged Tanner on Instagram, and then kind of put you guys in contact with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that wound up actually being my first contract job for that company. Like I was just getting it started, and you found me my first job, which was awesome. And like even afterwards, I'm like, man, that was great. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much that helped.
And I think that's the thing. I like to use social media for the good. And I think there's a lot of negativity that can happen with it. We've all seen the drama online. We've seen people go at each other. We've seen the negativity where people, get their information put out there and people losing jobs over stupid shit. But realistically, I like to focus on the positive, and there is a lot of positive that comes from it. And the big thing for me is, if I can help connect people together, hey, this person's looking for help, or this person's looking for work, or this person has equipment and this person can put it to work, that collaboration. And I've always been big on collaboration online. Basically people supporting people and helping each other out, or even just, building off each other's content and making jokes about it too, like just having fun with that. But it's really cool to see stuff like that where, you help somebody get some work out of the deal.
Yeah. And even still, like the connection that I've made with John because of you, now I'm working with John to get some other work lined up and some other big contracts lined up. So, I mean, just that one live, I jumped in just for shits and giggles, and I was kind of thinking about it. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then the girlfriend's like, just do it. See what happens. And then as much as what happened to you, John, kind of sucks, there's so much life-changing good that has come out of, just that one live that I guess I shot my shot with you, Steve.
Starting to sound like how you found me.
Well, I'm trying to think how that worked, because I'm pretty sure, John, I hopped in your lives. I think I was in your lives a lot more before you were in mine, because that was at the point in time where I wasn't really going live a whole heck of a lot on my own. I would just jump in boxes here and there, and you guys were always, John was live at like stupid hours of the night. Like he was live at like fucking 3-4 in the morning our time. So it was like early morning in Ontario, but it was, and then that was even too like the night that Olivia hopped in, and I don't know if you guys want to tell that story. We can.
Yeah.
You can tell that story, honey. No, that's your story to tell.
Yeah, I guess John was on live one night, and
she's always had a thing for me, by the way.
Okay. Anyways, Fire Steve was in that live, and I was having some health issues that night, and so I thought it was a great idea to go and ask John about it instead of just going to the hospital. I just had to text him about it. I think it was more of an excuse to talk to him more than anything. But
yeah, because she didn't go to the hospital, and I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks, so I thought she died.
Well, it was funny too because it's like, well, she's going through this, and I think at one point, John, you even leaned on me. You're like, tell her to go to the hospital. I'm like, okay, go to the freaking hospital.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, anyways, that happened. I didn't go to the hospital that night. I went the next day, but I didn't talk to him about it. Didn't update, and then kind of just went on with life, and we didn't really talk. And then, what were you doing? Oh, you were coming back from Winnipeg to Alberta, and basically asked if me and one of my other girlfriends wanted to hang out with him when he came back. And I messaged him privately out of this group chat saying, hey, like, I'll be in Calgary or whatever. You want to meet up? And so then we met up, and yeah, haven't left each other's side basically since.
Well, that's one thing I noticed too was, yeah, because John was live a lot, and then all of a sudden he was not live at all and very, very seldomly active. Like it went from him like damn near like, oh, John's live here like every day. Like it was like a daily thing to ghost mode. Like it was like nothing. And we've been chatting a little bit because I mean, at that point, did we trade numbers yet at that point? I don't.
Yeah, we did because I was busy with CN, so that's why I kind of stopped going live, and then I met her, and then just completely went ghost on everybody.
But it goes to show, life happens. Like same thing happened to me. Like when I first got on TikTok, like the amount of times I was live, like the first 6 months, because I started around Canada Day in 2021, and then for the first 6 months, because I was like the operating job I had at that point, I had 3 hours of work a day. So it was pretty regular for me to be on live like you were in the early times, like 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Like
I also work nights though, so that also why I was up.
That's true. But yeah, so
and why the hell were you up?
Because you were on the live.
You were up. Yeah.
Get it together, John.
I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Don't worry.
You know what? That's how it goes all the time. The girl's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just here just cause," and the guy's like, "Oh, it's a whatever." They just don't clue into it sometimes.
Yeah, it's just because I was randomly up at those really weird times of the day.
Well, like I started to catch on too, because it's like she'd come in the live and then not say a thing, and it's like I see she's in there, but she wouldn't say nothing, and it's like that's strange. Like, why would somebody just come in here and not say a thing? It's because she was afraid.
Hey, it happens. I mean,
yeah,
and
Yep.
I'll put my hand up on that. I was completely oblivious to things. Like I think back to my younger years, and like before me and Vic met, and there's a lot of times where it was like, I've had people be like, they were hitting on you, right? I'm like, no, fuck off. Like they weren't. It was, they were.
I'm still like that with her.
Well, for myself, I wound up meeting my girlfriend at a party, actually through one of my fire equipment suppliers for the fire hall I'm at, and my supplier, my sales lady, invited me out to this party and be like, "Hey, there's this girl there that I think you might like." But yeah, okay, whatever, I'll go. And I'm usually kind of quiet and chill at parties. I got to feel the vibe out before I really get into it. And we had a couple good conversations, but I didn't really think anything was going anywhere. But I, fired off my shot and came out with probably the slickest line I've ever uttered. And it worked. I got a phone number. But then my dumbass didn't shoot a text for like 2 or 3 days, right? 2-day rule or something like that, right?
Playing the waiting game.
Yeah, play the waiting game. I found out later on that she was losing her mind. Like, what is wrong with this guy? He was so sweet and so suave, or whatever the hell it was. And then he just texted me. And then when I finally did text her, I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then she was cool. Everything's all right.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
You were. Because when we first actually met in person, I was at a pub eating a 4-person nachos to myself.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I think food's a tricky thing because it's like you're hungry, you're like, oh, let's go get food, and it seems like a smart idea, but then you're like, fuck, I don't want to eat in front of this person. Like I'm trying to.
Well, like I knew she was coming, but her friend was telling me she wasn't gonna show up. So it's like I wasn't worried. So it's like I was gonna eat like a pig and whatever. So no, she showed up. And it was supposed to be just meeting as friends. Yeah, no.
She sat right beside you, didn't she?
Oh yeah. And then we just kind of stared at each other for a bit. Because I guess she walked in the other door and she seen me. Right? Is that how it worked? And then he went back the other way. So she already seen me, but I didn't see her. So she already had a freaking reconnaissance of the area.
Eagle the sparrow.
Yeah.
The birdie's in the nest. The birdie is in the nest.
She was getting that emergency phone call ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Don't doubt it, dude, because girls, they do their research and they know a lot more about you before any of that stuff happens.
Yeah, what did you know about me?
Don't ask questions you don't want answers to.
You know?
It's top secret.
Mm-hmm. You probably did research.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call you out on that, Olivia.
So it really goes to show, like I said, online social media stuff. Like I always go back to that thing because there's a lot of old school people that try to like turn their nose up at it and basically be like, wow, what do we need it for? And I'm like, there's so many good things that have come out of it. Like, and I think we can all agree on that. And I really think it's been more of a net positive than a net negative because it's opened up so many doors, so many opportunities. I met so many great people from just being in the online space that if I didn't decide to open up this app or open up a app and act like a jackass online when I first started and start feeling it out and having fun with it, that we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and well, we don't know where anybody would be. I mean, obviously you could really boil your brain like an egg if you think of all the what ifs, but I always go back to everything happens for a reason, and the way we all connected and interacted, and just like I said, goes back to the whole thing of this freaking pickle tied things together. Like the stupid pickle joke that I came up with on live one evening because I found a pickle, a Christmas pickle at Canadian Tire, and it just became this long running, the world's longest running dick joke. We'll call it what it is. Because it was a whole thing of like I was like at that point I'm like, okay, double entendre, let's go. Like, you know, asking people, I would go on live, be like, hey, do you want to see my pickle? And then I would pull out the Christmas pickle, and then everybody would be like, oh, it's an actual pickle. And then for some reason everybody's like, hey, have you seen Fire Steve? He has a pickle, you should ask him about his pickle. And then and then we made it, became part of my logo, the stickers, and obviously it got tattooed on me because I was like, you know what, it's become such an impactful thing on my life that even if I drop all this tomorrow, if I'm like, you know, screw it, I'm not making content anymore, I'm scrubbing the internet, it's still something that I did. It's still a part of me. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's get a tattoo and commemorate the shit.
Well, the best ones always happen naturally like that, right? Like the memes, the saying, the logos, the inside jokes, all of that. And once they happen organic, they stick and they stay.
It makes you feel like you're part of a club, right? Like it makes you feel like you're part of, and there's so many inside jokes. How many random things have we come up on live, John? Like,
well, Crip 1 is already one of them.
That's the most recent one. And then the fact that the glitter glue thing kind of went for a while there because of the first podcast you jumped on, which was episode 2. For anybody who's listening to this one and hasn't listened to that one, you can go back and listen to that one. What else? Freaking. And then even too, like, so just anytime I'm live, you guys pop in and it's always shenanigans because we're de-stressing, we're having fun, we're having a laugh, and it helps distract us away from the bullshit that happens in life. You know, everything that happened with your accident, the pain and stuff that you're still managing, you can hop in a live stream. We can just interact in general and just have fun and be like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of forgetting about this for a minute while we're having fun.
Um,
The good thing I'm finding about this, especially when I jump into your lives or whatever, Steve, is it's an outlet to help us deal with some of those hard calls that we've had. Like, we can actually talk about them and we can relate to each other on them, and that helps so much in actually just being able to process that, because sometimes we see shit that most people aren't going to see in their life, and we got to see it on a not a regular basis, but a more often than most people.
It's I seen something today. One of the firefighters on my department is also a peace officer, and he shared it more so to do with like the policing aspect of it. But he's like, most people will deal with 1.5 to 2 critical incidents in their life, whereas as a first responder, we can deal with upwards of 800 in our.
I'm at 219.
So
yeah,
and
you're not really right into your career yet either.
4 years in.
Yeah, and that's the big thing there, is that we've got we're dealing with abnormal situations, things that people don't normally deal with, and it is taxing, and that's where our skewed humor comes from, because that's where the dark humor comes from, and that's where the like I said, skewed humor, like I said, most people would look at you and go, like, I remember when back when I first joined the fire department, when I was like 18, 19 years old, no wife, no kids at that point. I spent a lot of time hanging out at the EMS base just for something to do. Like, that's where my friends were, because I was friends with a lot of EMTs and paramedics at that point in time. And yeah, you go for dinner and you're talking about like blood and gore and whatever. You're talking about things that, most people would be like, I'm losing my appetite, but we're just like, yeah, whatever. It's because it's our normal, but it's still an abnormal thing, and we have to figure out a way to deal with it without it consuming us. And that's where, even too, like, so we're on a live stream, and it could be a thing of, you just came back from a bad call, you're not talking about it, but I can see the look on your face. Okay, something's not right. I'm gonna end this. We're gonna have a phone call, and we're just gonna chat about it, because it doesn't matter where you are specifically. We can all support one another as first responders, as people in general. But I mean, even in the first responder space, that shared experience is what really helps us support one another. And maybe we're not the end of the road for mental health support. Maybe there's going to be some therapy or whatever beyond that. But if we can make that first point of contact to help get a person out of their head in order to want to talk about the things.
That's the big one, is the want to talk about it, because as much as it is now that we're more talking about it than ever before, there's still that kind of stigma even within the services themselves. You just deal with it in here. You don't put it out there. You deal with it, you push it down, you push it away, whatever the case may be, right? So the fact that we do this and we do talk about it helps a lot. And I think because you do have such a good following of first responders, that maybe because you're talking about it, or we're doing a podcast about it, or we're doing a live about it, they feel like they can start talking about it too, and get away from that stigma that's there.
Well, that's something I've always did with my platform, and I'm going to continue to do, is because I feel, the following number is bullshit. Like, I mean, whether you've got 500 followers, whether you've got 50,000, 100,000, whatever. The thing is, we're still people at the end of the day. But the optics of it are, and I was there when I first started, got online, I'm like, oh, somebody's got over 10,000 followers. They must have their shit together. They're organized in some way, shape, or form. Holy fuck, my life can be a dumpster fire. It doesn't matter how many people I got. That, I mean, and I'm appreciative of everybody that does support me and stuff like that. But what I look at it is okay, with great power comes great responsibility. So if people are looking at me with my almost 50,000 followers and like, okay, well, Steve must be doing something right, and he must have his shit together. It's like, well, I'm still dealing with the same mental health stuff that anybody else will. So if I can put myself out there and say, hey, look, I'm going to have my bad days, and there's things that are affecting me, and there's things that are impacting me, it happens to anybody. And if I can say, hey, look, I know when to take a knee and when I need to ask for help. And if that can, kind of get pushed out to other people as well, then I've done something good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard asking for that help.
And because we're on the topic, I put it on the ticker on the screen, but I'm also going to share the number to anybody who's listening on the audio versions. Boots on the Ground Alberta is a not-for-profit organization. It's a mental health resource for first responders. It's run by first responders. They answer the 24-hour helpline. If you're in crisis or just need somebody to talk to, it's a resource for, police, ambulance, fire, military, but it also extends to nurses, tow truck drivers, people that also support the first responders as well. And their number is 1-866-724-2684. It's they just celebrated their first year of operation here in Alberta, but Boots on the Ground originated actually in Ontario. There's a Boots on the Ground organization there that started in 2018, and it was a retired RCMP officer that spearheaded that whole thing to have that resource, because sometimes there's barriers, like especially if you're on a volunteer department, something like that, where you're on a fixed income, you can't just like up and go and pay for therapy. And there's been departments that have been lagging behind on the mental health aspect of things, so the resources haven't been there for the responders. So it's nice to have these organizations that are kind of stepping forward and providing this for people, because it's just the more people we can have opening up, talking about it, instead of hitting the bottle or hitting making a choice where they're no longer with us. It just puts us better off and more longevity with our people and our first responders and the careers that they're in.
We actually had these guys come out to our hall maybe within the past year, and it was a really bad call that we went to, and they came out and they were very, very, very good to deal with.
That's great to hear. No, I'm glad it's there. And it's something that I'd like to see supported more, and then also too, like across country. Like I'm sure there's variations in some of the other provinces. I know there's Alberta and Ontario for sure, but also too, it goes back to the core of being able to reach out to somebody, and even to like opening up my platform and sharing it with anybody else. Like I said, putting videos out where people can kind of connect in the comment section and help each other through something too is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very glad to see you two together. That's that night that everything went down, to see you guys like that right now. I know it's going to be it's a massive relief for you guys, but just kind of looking from the outside in, it's good to see that.
So as we carry on, so I know we kind of squirreled and we definitely sidetracked there for a bit, but I mean, hey, we talked about a lot of good stuff there. So John, your recovery went a lot quicker than originally anticipated, because I remember on the weekend hearing from Olivia. I think you sent me a message saying it looks like he's going to be discharged fairly soon, and I think John, you texted me too. There was definitely some communication saying, hey, it looks like you're going to be discharged sooner than later. Which I was like, okay, because I know me and Brayden have been in contact saying, okay, well, as soon as I'm out from work, so we were kind of shooting for the following Thursday. So basically a week from when you called me that morning was kind of the plan. We were going to shoot into the city and come see you at the hospital there. But through the weekend, so yeah, you were dealing with the no feeling in your leg. So at that point, wasn't sure if you were paralyzed from the waist down or not. I feel like it was later Saturday or Sunday, that you had started being able to get feeling in your legs again, and it had to do with some blood clots and stuff like that they were working on, but you were able to actually say, hey, I've got feeling in my legs and can actually walk. Mm-hmm. So then that progressed, you guys, and then they were talking about discharging you there, and then you traveling back out to Ontario to be with family at that point in time, and to just have somebody there to help you with, or be in a place where you could recover that wasn't the hospital, because I know you're like, I can't wait to get the hell out of the hospital, because nobody likes being in a hospital.
Well, they had me on a liquid diet and I didn't have a TV, so.
But you had a phone. No, I know there's like so much
no phone charger though. I was stealing the nurse's charger.
Yeah, that having the phone charger is very important. If you could have had that, then you would have at least had some entertainment through the stay and whatnot.
Why do you think I was walking all of a sudden?
Maybe it was by design. Maybe that's how they got you walking. They're like, hey, he's going to get to the charger. Get to the charger.
We got into the Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation part of the podcast. That's great.
It's only an hour and 10 minutes in. We've hit the impersonation aspect of it. And then so then I remember because Olivia was there. You were there through the weekend, right? Helping or just visiting and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was there on the Friday.
Right. Yeah, because you got back from your trip. You went and seen him.
Yeah, as soon as I got back, I got all of his stuff from his car into my apartment, and then that next morning, I left early for Edmonton and got there as soon as I possibly could.
No, and then I remember, like I said, just getting the feedback that it looked like you were getting ready to head home fairly soon. Actually, I remember it was Raymond. Raymond messaged me. He's like, "Oh, did you hear about John?" Because he went on a live. That's what it was. Because he went on a live and he kind of talked to some people about what had happened, which was interesting because I had a lot of people messaging me being like, "Hey, did you hear what happened to John?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been aware."
John
But at the same time, too, it wasn't my story to tell. So I was waiting until, and even like I said, the topic of this podcast, too, that was something that I brought up. I was like, hey, it's a neat idea. The whole 6 degrees of separation, how we're all connected, being able to come tell your story. But at the same time, too, it was the thing of like, ultimately, it's your story to tell. And it was your call to come on. And, I'm super appreciative that we were able to sit down and have this chat and kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
But
actually.
What else was I thinking? And then so then things progressed. You went to Ontario. We won't get into the nitty gritty of all that, but you went back home for a bit, and then you're like, but my heart's in Alberta, and that's where I want to be. So
that's exactly what was said. Yeah.
And then you, because I remember I got a call because last weekend I had a wicked flu, so I was like dead to the world. But then I got I had a phone call from Brayden. I missed the call, and then you were texting me, and you're like, "Oh, I'm on the phone with him right now." So we did we had a 3-way. Sorry, Olivia, you weren't part of that.
We did try though.
We did try to make it a 4-way, but apparently that's not a feature in 2024 unless you're doing like a video chat. So then you made your way back to Alberta, Brayden, you guys can talk about that, flying back into Alberta and catching the ride. And
I made a boo-boo right off the bat because John had sent me a text, say, hey, you want to give me a ride tomorrow at 9? And it said 9 p.m., but my, I don't know, ADHD brain just saw 9, and I thought 9 a.m. So booked her into the city. I'm like, I shot him a text. I'm like, I'm running late. I'll be there when I be there. And he's like, oh, okay. So I got to the airport. I'm like, hey, man, I'm just getting here. Where you at? He's like, I'm in Toronto. I'm like, what the hell happened? And he's like, I'm not flying till 9. I'm not there till 9 p.m. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. If you've been at Edmonton Airport, as I'm coming in, I'm talking to him, and I hit the Timmy's. He's like, no, I'm not going to be there till 9 p.m. And I drove past the Timmy's and right back out. And I was like, not even an eighth of a mile away from picking him up, but he wasn't there. So then I came back in that night, and I sat there and waited for him, and then you started texting me, and you tell what happened there.
So we're sitting there, and just like, I noticed we're circling, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I just want to land and go home. Like, I'm already in so much pain because I got stuck behind a 600-pound guy. So I'm getting squished against the window. I can't stretch my legs, so my legs are cramped right up. And the pilot said that there was a stray dog on the runway, and if the dog's not out of the way soon, they're just gonna land and hope they don't hit him. So,
who let the dogs out? Ooh, 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 ooh.
So yeah, they finally landed after they got the dog off the runway. They took forever to get us unloaded off the plane, and I just limped pretty much all the way from where we landed all the way to the bag, which was on the other side of the Edmonton airport, of course. Same with my terminal at Toronto. It was literally what, a half-hour walk?
Yeah.
I walked a half hour already, so I was already in so much pain, and I basically just sat there with my baggage, and this guy walks right past me.
But you gotta remember, we haven't actually met yet.
Yeah.
Right? Other than we're pulling you out of your vehicle, and at that point, I was more worried about making sure you're strapped in properly than seeing how glorious that stash was, right? So,
well, when he walked past, he looked at me funny, and it's like I was on the phone with her, and it's like, what's this guy's problem? Like he just looked at me funny.
Well, you had that thought in your head, and that showed on your face. I'm like, well, I must not be him.
That's so funny.
And then he walked back past me, and then I had my bag, and then he seen me, I guess, with my bag, and I guess the fire bag was what I guess told you.
Yeah. Well, I shot you a text. I'm like, what you wearing? Trying to,
what you wearing?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, what's up? So, because I'm looking around, I'm like, nothing's really ringing a bell. And then, when I walk past you, I'm like, it kind of looks familiar, but he gave me that look like fuck off, so I'm gonna fuck off. And then, I went outside. I'm like, where the hell is he? And then I turned around and I saw, I saw that bag on the side of the highway that night, and I'm like, okay, yeah, John, let's go.
See, your mistake was you didn't make the little sign, like the limo drivers.
De Groot.
John De Groot.
No, Crip 1.
This is before Crip 1. We had
that was way before.
There's nothing before. It was already happened.
It's always been.
It's always been. I mean, if we're gonna use the whole multiverse theory, it's like everything that's happened has happened already. I mean, if you want to go down that road and really cook your brain like an egg, there you go. You can be like,
yeah, no.
But yeah, he pretty much picked me up, and she's texting me already, just bouncing off the walls. It didn't quite hit her until what, Vegreville, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vegreville is when hurry your ass up, get going, let's fucking go, let's fucking go.
Let's go. Take this route instead of this route. Drive faster. You're not driving fast enough.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And me and him were talking.
You want me to get him in another wreck, or?
I know. And we were talking. He's like, okay, I'll stand behind you because she's just gonna come running at you, and she's just gonna take you right out. That's it. You're done. So he was already running behind me to stand me, and we watched her come in from the lobby because she was sitting in the lobby waiting, and we watched her come down, and she's kind of cheery and happy and stuff. And then as soon as she saw me step out of the truck, all by myself, that was it.
Yeah. It was big hugs. It was at least 2-3 minutes of just hugging, and I'm pretty sure there's a wet spot on your sweater from her tears, and
it was more or less just calming the both of us down because we were both. I was crying too. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I didn't see that part. You were on the other side of her, so
I was crying too because I was finally in her arms, and just she was crying, I was crying. It was a mess, and I got myself calmed down. It took a bit to calm her down because even when we got to the apartment, she was still kind of crying and just kind of shocked I was there and how good I was doing all by myself. She's watching me walk up the stairs by myself, and you could just tell it was hitting her hard. It's he's okay.
Well, and to add on to that too, the last time that I saw him before he went Ontario was we met up in Vegreville again right before he left. And at that point, he didn't have a whole lot of movement in his legs and stuff. And so he got himself out of the truck, but he was using the truck to help him get out and get back in, and he couldn't like walk at all. So yeah, seeing you that night, it was like a completely different him from the last time I saw him. So seeing him actually walking and everything, it was like the biggest weight came off my shoulders, and I just couldn't keep it together.
I got to give you props, man. That truck's lifted up. You got in and out by yourself spectacularly.
That's why I've been extremely grateful I got upper body strength. So that's the only thing that saved me. Because, like, even getting on and off the plane to go back to Ontario, they didn't help me at all. So I, like, walked to the gate by myself, carrying all my bags because my parents didn't want to help for whatever reason. And, like, my condition to get on the plane, like, I was in so much pain, I could barely walk. And I got all the way on the plane, all the way on the seats. Like, I was using the seats to get to the plane because I couldn't keep weight on my legs. And like when we got to the hotel, even after the hospital, like I showered myself. Like I had no help at all in the hotel, like when I was discharged from the hospital. So like I'm like wrapping up all my like IV bandages and like plastic wrap because I was on blood thinners and I didn't want to open anything up. Yeah. I didn't want anything to get wet. So I'm wrapping everything up by myself, and they're, you know, just sitting there in the living room watching TV, and like I'm just screaming, and like I had to climb 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken.
Oh.
So like I'm like legit crying walking up these stairs because I'm in so much pain, carrying both my bag by myself. Because I was just so much pain. And I couldn't be on painkillers, so they just let me be in pain. But like even like when I was in Toronto, like the pain was so much that it was immense. Like just sitting down hurts, like getting up hurts, like just hurts in general. And like when I was able to actually use my upper body to get back on that plane to Alberta, it was a lot easier than going back to Ontario. But like even like getting in your truck, like it was so much easier just to actually move around. And I think it helped too because I just wanted to go see her. The only thing pushing me because like I didn't sleep the night before. So, like, I was dead tired. I didn't sleep on the plane at all because I had a guy snoring against me. I had Wi-Fi for a little bit, and I had headphones, but I couldn't sleep for the life of me because I was just so excited. And that was the only thing freaking keeping me going was just to see her. She's the only reason why I think I'm still here. And that's it. Because, like, I was thinking about her when I was in a coma. And I asked about her nonstop in the hospital. Like I was writing her name down. I was bugging the damn nurses. Like, where the hell is she? Like, get her ass here right now. Like, I don't care who else shows up. I want her here right now. And I'm really glad that she had that school trip because I didn't want to see her when I was in a coma. Because I was in really bad shape. Apparently I was black and blue pretty much. Like my body was apparently like just rigid. Like nothing was moving. I wasn't like they couldn't move my arms or legs. Like I was completely solid.
Well, I'm looking at the progression of you, and I mean that's one thing we've talked about a lot over the course of the last hour and a bit here is just how quickly like your recovery went. Like I said, I didn't expect you to be out of that hospital until like I didn't figure you would have been out of there till over a week. So I figured I'm like, okay, I've got time to get to the city to see you. and then you flew to Ontario, and then it's like, okay, crap, he's gone. And then he came back, and it's like, okay, cool. Now there's a chance here. Well, we're definitely gonna because me and Brayden met up. You two have met up.
Yeah. Just me and you haven't met up.
We just haven't met
and
up.
We've known each other the longest. So like, but like,
sorry, man.
Even like, because they gave me like the report back. Like they actually gave me the report, from all the nurses and stuff.
Yeah.
From stars and all that. So I have all that paperwork. So I got to read it. And like even talking to the nurses and stuff after, it went from me not supposed to being alive to walking out of that hospital in 6 days.
Yep.
And even here, like the stars report, like it's shocking and just how bad I tanked at Vegreville Hospital. Like, because I came in there, I was stable, I was still having seizures and everything. but it wasn't major. And then all of a sudden, my whole body apparently was shaking. I was foaming at the mouth at times. Like, I couldn't keep my airway. Like, my heart kept stopping. Like, it just tanked. And then I showed up to Edmonton Hospital, black and blue. Basically, they even said, like, my doctor came in and he's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, you're supposed to be dead. Like, your vitals and everything, like, you completely had made medical knowledge. You made it, like, it didn't even exist. Like, your vitals and stuff, like, he said, you were supposed to be at least brain dead. Because, like, my heart wasn't beating, like, really at all. Like, it was so slow. I had no oxygen going to my brain. Like, everything was so bad.
We were talking about that in the truck, that you had your adrenaline going, and I think you were in like firefighter mode when you were in that car. Yeah. And then as soon as we got that door open, your body was just there was the relief that you're good now. There's the shock, and then there was the firefighter mode combined with all of that together, and then your body just said, "Nah, I'm done. Yeah, we're gonna shut down and do a hard reset for a couple days here."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just crazy, and how, like, even the fact the airbags didn't go off or anything, and like the amount of damage that my body went through in that car accident. Like, I've got slip disc in my back now. Like, I have spinal cord damage. Like, the amount of damage and stuff, and like the fact that my vitals were showing I was dead, pretty much. And then all of a sudden I woke up, and like my vitals were still funky though when I woke up. Like, my blood pressure was very odd. Like, it would not stay in one spot. Like, it was all over the freaking map.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of trauma to go through, and I think looking at that, and I think, like you said, what Brayden said, your body, you were fighting because our bodies fight to survive.
Yeah.
And then once it's like, hey, I know there's help here, and I knew with everything that happened, and like I said, even as speedy as your recovery has been, you're still going to have things that are going to stick with you. It's still a long road. You've got a lot of recovery ahead, but also there's things that are going to stick with you. You're going to have pains when the weather changes based on, because you went through something severely traumatic, and which will hopefully get better in time, but it's going to take some time to get there. And like, even too, like we talked that one day as well, where you're like, I want to, you're like, I just want to be better. And I'm like, give yourself some grace. I'm like, you've come a long way, like in a short period of time. And I think that's the thing, especially being younger, but also being a go-getter as well, similar personalities. I know that's why me and you relate. I think that's why the three of us all relate, because we all have that same kind of drive, focus, all that as well. But anytime we're down, even too, like when I had the flu last weekend, I'm like, I should be productive and doing shit. It's like, no, your body's telling you to calm the fuck down, chill out. And same with you. Like, you got to be able to allow your body to heal. It's going to take some time, even though it's like, I want to be out doing stuff. It's going to take some time.
Well, I think what drove me too is that the fact that I knew I had to be better before I could see her. But I think because like she wasn't going to be able to take care of me because she had school and stuff. So it's like, I need to be like able to do stuff myself before I see her. So like, that's basically what pushed me. Like, I literally, like, I was doing stuff the second I got discharged from hospital. Like, I probably should have been doing stuff myself. Like, I probably should have had like a ducky bath or something, a sponge bath, like my first night. But like, I was in the shower myself. That's like, I need to be able to get better so I could be with her. Because that is all I wanted. Because like, I knew I would have been not all right without me being there, but she was doing worse off. The fact that I was far away again, and she was more worried about something happening to me over there and her not being able to go out and see me. And I didn't want her to be terrified of that and be distracted of school and stuff. And like, even like my doctors told me, like, the fact that my organs are in such stress right now, like, I also found out my spleen partially grew back. That's wild to me. It's 8 centimeters right now, so it's somehow growing back. And don't ask me how, but slowly getting the spleen back. But like they were even saying like to like expect organ failure still, because my brain still thinks I should be dead still. And because like they were taking my vitals before I left the hospital, and like my O2 stats were still extremely low, my heart rate was still really low, my blood pressure was still really low, and they're like, "We're gonna put you on blood thinners to get rid of these blood clots, but like expect organ failure still, at least for another month, because your body still thinks you should be dead."
Well, that's interesting. Interesting here, but obviously you're too stubborn for that. We'll just call it that, because I mean, to look at you, I mean, obviously we're not in the exact same room, and I mean, imagine you're still puffy in some spots and still tender and whatnot, but I mean, to look at you sitting there, you don't look much different from the last time I sat on a screen across from you.
This would be time number 4 that my heart has stopped, so obviously I'm too stubborn.
You know what? I really think it's that type A personality, whether it's kind of the training and mentality that we get into as firefighters, or maybe you just had it from the get-go, but it's just I have to be better than I was yesterday. I need to be, able to do all these things. It's just the things that we do, we have to be better. We have to be good at everything we do, just because there is so much riding on the line sometimes, right?
Well, like that's true. Yeah, like even when I was in a coma and stuff, and I was still very aware of what was happening, but I couldn't like physically or anything react. I was more terrified that I would be leaving Olivia, like passing away, than I was about myself. I was absolutely terrified that she would know there's something wrong with me, and I would pass away or whatever. And I was more worried about her mental well-being and her than I was myself. Because I don't remember the medevac flight at all, but I remember being in Edmonton, and I remember hearing the nurses kind of talking around me and stuff, and just how everybody was freaking out because my oxygen was dropping, and they were pushing meds in me and doing sternum rubs, and like I heard them screaming my name in my ear, trying to wake me up and stuff. Like I can remember all that clearly, and all I was thinking about was Olivia, because I knew she was going to wake up to all those phone calls. I know she was probably going to be blaming herself for whatever, that she couldn't be there right away. And I was so terrified that she was going to be in a bad spot. And I didn't want that at all. And it's like, I need to get my fucking ass up. I need to wake up. Like, because that's all I was worried about was her. I was terrified that she wasn't going to be okay.
But having something very important to focus on and to have that drive, I mean, it shows that, I mean, they write books about this, they write poems about this kind of stuff, there's movies. I mean, I'm like, I feel like this is like this could have been a chapter in The Notebook. And not to put you guys on the spot or nothing like that, but it goes to show, like I said, when you have a deep connection with somebody and like you don't want to leave it off in that, or don't want to leave them behind or leave things unsaid, that there are things that don't make sense biologically, physiologically. There's things that people do because of emotion. I mean, like we've heard stories of mothers lifting cars off of kids and stuff like that. Stuff that's like, you could have a whole crew of firefighters, they're not going to be able to lift that thing up, but yet, the focus and the drive is there because of that connection and drive, right?
Well, like that's very true. It's like I was just worried about her because I know how much she loves me and how much she cares about me, and the fact that it took her by surprise too. And I know she had that trip and stuff. It's like, I don't want her to see me like this right now. Like, I need time to get better, so that, because like even when I saw her when she came to the hospital, I was in really rough shape still. But it was a lot better shape than her coming in, and she's watching the nurses giving me sternum rubs and like trying to wake me up, and like I'm all black and blue and they're doing CPR and all that stuff. Like I didn't need her to see that.
It's tough.
It is.
No, and it sounds like everything, once again, I said it earlier, and sometimes we don't know why or how things are, but everything happens for a reason. And it's we don't know, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, like I said, bad, shitty circumstances. I mean, you getting into an accident in the first place is a horrible thing. But you know, we're happy with the outcome as far as you're still here. And you know, obviously it's easy for, I mean, I feel like as first responders sometimes, or even just myself, it's like, well, at least this didn't happen, or I mean, at least you're still here. There's still stuff you're dealing with, and it's still tough. It's still a tough road ahead. And you know, that's where having the support network is huge. And I'm glad we were all able to come together in some way, shape, or form. I'm glad Brayden was there to go pick you up. I'm glad Olivia's been there for you to be that rock of support for you. I'm just here.
You're the glue. You're our glue, our glitter glue.
I'm the glitter glue.
You're the pickle juice of our hangover.
Yeah, I think, you know what, I think I said this to you on the drive here, but one thing I've learned, no matter what happens in your life, past, present, future, whatever it is, life happens for you, not to you. And when you can look at it like that, you know what, you said this quite a few times tonight, Steve, everything happens for a reason. And I know we did talk about this a bit on the road, John, but as much as this sucks, something good has come out of it, like whether it's knowledge or experience or whatever the case may be, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, and that's a huge thing too, is like, and then you're gonna know who's in your corner and who's not, and stuff of that nature. You know, you're gonna know who's, and sometimes those are lessons that we don't learn until much later in life, after we've invested a whole pile of time and effort into people that aren't going to have our back as much as we thought they would or they should. So that's the biggest thing there too, is you find the people that have your corner. And then just memory, like just I'll be honest, I'm never going to forget this whole ordeal.
No.
And for not being directly, and I like to reiterate that, for not being directly involved. You might know, I wasn't on scene with you there. I mean, I wasn't anywhere near. I was close-ish, I guess, but I mean, within an hour away, but not super close to. I wasn't involved in that, but still, just being there. And I remember, like, the biggest thing after I got off the phone with Brayden, phoning back and basically being like, I don't know if you're still alive. And just knowing, like, I had to put some tunes on. I had to just kind of, like, I focused on driving and kind of did my zone out thing, because it was like, hey, well, I'll get emotional at home if I need to, you know, but did my thing, listen to my tunes, and it still impacted me. And I'm glad that you're still here, and that everything played out the way it did, for the best, or the best it could have been.
Well, it definitely seemed to have break a few laws of physics, because I'd like, honestly, like, if I did not have Olivia, I wouldn't have waken up. That's honestly, I know that for a fact, because I didn't know if I had anybody there, but I knew I had her. I knew I had to wake up, but it would have been a lot different of a circumstance if I didn't have her.
Well, it's having that rock, having that person to fall back on, and that's the thing. Like, or that's having somebody, and it goes to show importance of having people, whether it's a significant other, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, good friend, whatever it may be, however that shakes out. Having people, I mean, we are social creatures. Even if we're introverted, even if you're an introverted person, you still need somebody. So
yeah, that goofball you found on TikTok.
Well, like I said, I like tying in that whole thing. I mean, I talk a lot about social media and how the impacts and the effects of it. And once again, I always reiterate. I mean, I remember when I first kind of got on, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm, you know, when things first start blowing up, people are like, oh, so what do you do with your spare time? Oh, I make videos on TikTok, and I almost felt like embarrassed about it. I guess it's kind of a weird thing. You feel like, oh, I'm acting little skits in videos, and it seems so juvenile and childish at times, but also too, like, just the impact and the effect it's had on things. And now, you know, especially with stuff like this, and you know, I can kind of not puff my chest up, but kind of sit higher and be like, no, this is something that I do, and this is something that I've used as a tool to bring people together. And none of this would have happened if, and that's why I always encourage people to put yourself out there. You know, if you think you're not good enough, whatever, it doesn't matter. Have some fun with it. Go on, make a silly video, put your opinion out there. Don't be an asshole, but I mean, go out there and just be who you want to be. Make content that makes you proud. Let it be that creative outlet, and you don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
But no, I think this was I'm really happy that we were able to all sit down and talk about this and reflect on it. And this is something that all four of us, can look back on and, you know, basically like, hey, we chatted about this, and there might be other people that'd be like, hey, this is an interesting experience, or maybe other people have experienced something similar that they can relate to. I don't think that they came together over a pickle, but I could be wrong.
Hey, it's what happened.
Any final thoughts? So, well, I guess we'll start with Olivia.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wanted to add too, like, I will say, Steve, you were definitely one of my rocks through this whole thing. Like, even talking to you that night, you helped me so much, and you took my brain from being in a very negative spot to a more positive spot, and I really appreciate you for that, and being on my side and making sure that I knew that, you know, you were my support if I needed it, and you were there every step of the way. Even though you made me wonder all night why you were asking for my phone number, but besides the point.
I wanted to show you with Pickle.
Yeah.
We'll let it be known to people. If Fire Steve messages you in the middle of the night asking for your phone number, just send it.
Just do it.
Just send it. I promise I won't send you a unsolicited pickle pic.
It's better than getting an unsolicited whiskey pickle pic.
Wow.
You're gonna get a whiskey pickle pic at some point. Just wait, John.
I just want your whiskey pickle.
Oh, you're gonna get it. You're going to get it. But no, that makes me feel really good, and I appreciate hearing that as well. Like I said, because I often downplay things as well. It's like, oh, I didn't have that big of an impact, but it is good to hear, and it does make me feel good that I made an impact, because ultimately, whether I'm on a scene or off a scene, that's what I'm there to do, is try to help people out.
Absolutely, yeah. And you were a huge part of it, so don't think you weren't.
Brayden, what's your takeaway? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts, and I don't want to ever downplay this. I am extremely appreciative of the kind of relationship we've cultivated. Unfortunately, some of the circumstances that have cultivated this relationship that we all have together, I am extremely appreciative of it, and I'm just glad that I could help in any way I could.
I think you've been a huge help. I mean, the fact that you went and picked them up from the airport and stuff like that, and you know, being a part of that, and being there as they came together after missing each other for that period of time, I think it's a huge thing, and it really brings you into that, you know, and maybe I'm talking out of place here, but I feel like that would be a huge thing if I was in that situation, but we can let John speak to that.
I appreciate the both of you. Honestly, like Steve, like all I heard was that you talked to her and you calmed her down and stuff and kind of made her realize what was going on and like got her out of a bad spot. Like the second I heard that, it's like, okay, I need to talk to this guy and I need to thank him. Like, yeah, his pickle identified who I was. And I'm really glad that I had your pickle on hand. And your pickle was viewed publicly so everybody could see your pickle when I wrecked. I was very happy.
Like that was the first thing as soon as I walked in the door, like when I got home after like the phone calls and stuff like that, that's when I told the Vic, I'm like, the thing that really gets me about this whole situation is that my pickle is the fact of how somebody got identified. Like just listening to that sentence on its own sounds so surreal and unreal, right? Like
Yeah.
But like even like Brayden, like you, the fact that you were able to give me a ride to the airport, like because I didn't know how I was gonna get to her because like she was gonna be able to drive at night. I was already at the airport for like 12 hours. Like the only flight I could afford to even get in the first place. It's like it was a late night flight. Like I had to get out there, and that was the only flight I can get. And you honestly, you saved both of our asses because I didn't want her to drive to the airport at night because I'd be terrified of her driving, and I'd probably have to drive back. So, and like she's got a damaged tire too as well. But like the fact that you were able to get out of your way to come pick me up, even though you went to the airport twice, but we won't talk about that.
That was the milk run.
But no, like
test drive.
you both made this a lot better. This could have been so much worse, and you both came in clutch, and you made it so much easier for me to recover. And I will forever be grateful for that.
We'll both be forever grateful for the both of you for everything from beginning to now and continued on, I'm sure.
That's what friends do for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're very welcome. And yeah, I'm glad we were able to be a part of this and help out in some way, shape, or form. And I'll do it again. I don't want to do it again, but I will.
Yeah.
I do have to add, Fire Steve, I'm extremely grateful for your pickle.
Well, you can have as much as my pickle as you can handle.
I can handle a lot. It'll be plastered all over my car.
This is the time.
Next car will just be all of the pickle.
It will be a Fire Steve pickle car. It'll just have his pickle on every window of the car.
A big pickle, like a
vinyl wrap.
Yeah, just a vinyl wrap pickle. Just be like, is that a pickle mobile?
Yes. License plate will be Fire Steve pickle.
One thing I didn't do earlier, something I've been trying to do, to shout out all my subscribers and stuff on TikTok, because I really don't know how to support the people that support me, but by giving them shout outs, the people that help make this podcast possible. So right now, as of today, we've got 3 subs. We've got Wendy, and we've got Sasha, and we've got Karen.
I need to subscribe to them.
You were. But,
I got you subscribed on, what the heck is it?
Only Pickles? Yeah, me too.
Only Pickles. but pretty
you
much
started Only Pickles.
That happened. It was a thing. It's not a thing now, but it
I thought it was gherkinsonly.com.
Gherkinsonly.com. I don't know what sites you're looking at, John. I'll direct you to the right one. I'll send it to you.
Is it juicypickle.ca?
It's juicypickle.ca. We actually now we got to make that a thing. I got to see if
we do.
We got to see if that domain name's open. If it is, look for juicypickle.ca.
It'll be just like cornhub.com. I don't know if you've looked that up, but it's just pictures of corn.
I mean, I'm not that into corn.
It's some juicy corn though. It gets your appetite going.
It's got.
You know what? I can print you little fire hats on my 3D printer that you can put on your pickle and just have your webcam and your fire pickle with this little hat on.
Wait. Will these fire helmets have elastics so I can put them on my pickle? Or?
Well, we could do a custom sizing for you if you need.
Okay. John, it's gonna have a set screw, like so you tighten it in because I don't know how you're gonna get the elastic around, so you gotta like drive.
Well, I gotta watch out for the nick now, right? So it's gotta be like a looser fit.
Yeah. Okay. we gotta count for the nick. They partial. Partial pickleotomy when you were
the wart scar from the catheter.
Pickleectomy.
I appreciate everybody for popping on. One thing we do on everything, John's already plugged his socials on episode 2, but go ahead if you want, or we'll go through if whoever wants to plug their TikToks or their Instagrams, or if there's any socials that you want to throw out there where people can find you.
I don't even remember my social stuff.
Either. I don't pay attention.
My Juicy Pickles username is firehosedaddy.ca.
Oh.
just look for me and you'll find John there. And then if you find John with me, you'll find Olivia there too.
Yeah, usually.
We do some collabs,
Yeah, there's some. Yeah.
Oh.
Brayden, where can people find you typically?
I am on TikTok more often than not. I don't remember the handle right off the top of my head, but if you jump on a Fire Steve live, I'm usually jumping in there to, take a little bit of spotlight away from him. And then I got my link tree set up there so you guys can find me everywhere else off of my TikTok.
Oh, he's got a link tree, eh?
You got to up your game there, John. You got to get the link trees. You got to actually up. I'm working on something. I'm probably going to ditch the link tree. I'm going to a new layout. I'm playing around with something that'll hopefully revolutionize my linkage and merch stuff too. If people are looking for the pickle stickers, the patches, stuff like that.
I think your pickle stickers are going to be a huge hit now because they're identifying people now. So
exactly, you can use my pickle to identify you in case of an emergency. We're just gonna leave that line right there.
That's why you're getting a pickle. Your pickle's getting tattooed as my tramp stamp. So I'm easy identifiable.
I thought you were about to say you were going to tattoo his pickle on your pickle, and I was.
The size difference, it's just not possible.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
On that note, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, smash that like button, leave some comments, helps boost the videos and the stuff in the algorithm. If you want to see our smiling faces, come check us out on the Fire Steve YouTube channel for the Blazing Banter podcast. If not, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on all the places. So, and then, make sure you smash that subscribe, like button, notification bell, thingamajiggy. That way you know when we post the next episode. But on that note, this has been some more Blazing Banter with Fire Steve. Have a wonderful day, night, or whatever time it is. Have a good one. Bye for now.